Hey there guys, how are you? Do you want to make your life more conducive and be in more of a state of congruency through love, which is a harmonious frequency? If you do, you found the right channel, and I am here to propagate the knowledge through divination. Some souls come through, transitions through a fractalized wave of this evolutionary soul progress, and some of us come through with certain abilities because they're becoming more accessible. And yes, I operate through divination, I get messages coming through, but it's all a coalesced state of being, and everything's accessible at any given point. So yeah, today's video, why are we here? Why are we here? I'm not saying I have the absolute answer, but through the messages that I am susceptible to, I can delineate some kind of valid enough answer in order to give you guys some insight. So here we go. Why some of us are here, and did we choose it? Did we choose this? Did we choose it, or did it choose us? Or does one imply the other? Who knows? This is what we're here to discover. But yeah, my first point. Some of us are different kinds of soul evolution. So we're at different variations of resonance. We're all oscillating within certain resonance kind of calibrations, and I think that some of us, there's almost like an attractor, and we have to come back in. We come back in, just like the infinite symbol that represents this earth plane again, which is the polarities that interfuse with one another, and that signifies the figure 8 interweaving in and of itself. The in implies the off, and the in implies the out, and vice versa. That's why there's never ever a finalized version of you or anything else. It's always like a prerequisite kind of stage into the transitioning of somewhere else. It predecesses itself to evolve through itself. And that's why we're here, and that's what happens. So sometimes the soul gets attracted, the soul, you know what I mean, like different subfractalized parts of God gets attracted back through, because the energy cannot go into the higher domains. It's not able to, it's not accessible to them places, because it needs to be fully, the capacity of what it is intrinsically needs to have been fully augmented and expressed in order to be liberated, which enables access to traverse out of these physical realms in order to get to the higher. Because without, if you die and you're still in a kind of low dense resonance, that energy can only recoil back in, because the lessons weren't synthesized to induce the state of a higher resonant vibration. So yeah, that's the first point. My second point, why some of us are here. Why are some of us here? Some say it's predetermined, preordained even, but you know, that's heavily secular. I don't want to get too far into the religion, because I want to do another video about that, and where that's a derivative from religion especially. But yeah, some people say it's predetermined, and it's like I've just said, each stage of soul evolution is a prerequisite to induce more of a transmutatable state, to be more purified. And just like when you're having a soul awakening here, a soul revival, and it's resuscitating the dormant aspects of your soul. Sometimes that's a big transmutational process, and that's secreting so much repressed stuff that you've been hoarding over the years. And that's, I mean, that can be that's a small micro dose of what's happening on a bigger collective macro scale in this particular domain. And it's like we're all just energy trying to discover its realignment to reconverge into a harmonious intonation. See how I'm using musical things to convey this message, because music is all an aggregation of intonations and frequencies that creates a melody. There's a flow to it. There's a certain flow to the melody. We're all just melody with frequencies interweaving in and of themselves, trying to find its course to create a harmonic kind of tangential flow, so that we can be a conduit into the higher realms. Because I think we was interspersed here, interspersed into different focalized points of what the whole cosmos is doing in order to know more of itself. And it's like this individual soul here, it's like it reports back to the higher realms. I feel that happens to me in my sleep. Whatever I synthesize through this kind of frequency formation at my current calibre, I feel like that, you know, sometimes I report back to the higher dimensions, and when I go to sleep, you're completely devoid of ego, so you're more susceptible to being receptive to these other realms that we oscillate through when we go to sleep. Different brave wavelengths starts to, I'd say, descend, but that's speaking in that kind of terminology, but rational terminology. But we actually ascend when we go to sleep. Every night we leave the body. The soul leaves the body, almost like you're a troop of God, and you are reporting back to the source as a fractalized part of what that is, of its origin, giving the soul's like reflecting upon itself through God to give. So it's like God's discovering more of himself through each persona. We're putting on a play, a facade, but really we're all the same origin, the same source. And this is the reason, one of the reasons why I think we are here, really. And we could say it's predetermined, but like I said, predetermined is speaking in past terms, when the illusion of a lineage incremental time scale, like something's moving up, is very much deceiving in itself. It is an illusion, because there is no lineage time scale. Everything's the focal point of now. All is accessible in the now. All the time frames are condensed into what we call the now, and they're just different phases that like kind of interlude with itself through the self of now. So yeah, that's the second point. The third point, I would say that, why are we here? Reverting back to the question, did we choose it? Did we choose why we're here? I don't think we did, because that's interpreting it through the rational lens, which is a filterization. And again, it's a lineage illusion that there's a us, there's a you that chose to be here, and there is no you that chose this. Again, it's energy. Energy attracts other forms of energy. So if you're on a certain vibration, it will attract you back to this realm. So I really don't think that's a valid enough point, really. The fact that, I mean, you could say we chose it, and that sounds very, if someone wants to make that statement, that does sound very enticing, that statement that there's a you that chose to be here, like you chose to come in. But how do you know there's a you unless you're in this illusion of separability, three-dimensional separability? It's holographic, it's arranged longitudinally and latitudinally, which creates the illusion of a three-dimensional space, as if there's objectification, and the things that we objectify are a part of us. We are the object itself, experiencing itself through different objects, which is in itself the object. So there is no subjectivity, really. So there is no you that could have chosen that, because you can't be cognizant of something in which doesn't have a mind to perceive itself as the I focal point. So I'm not really down for that perception that you chose this, but I can understand why people say that in order to give an answer. But in a way, you didn't choose it. The energy of what this is was more stagnant and not as fluid, so it couldn't access, like I've already said. But I'll say it again, okay, for you guys to really take this in and assimilate this information, to really maybe evoke something within you, the dark parts of you, to illuminate that, so you can reflect on this. This is what these videos are for. So yeah, I think that there is not a you that chose this, but there's a reason for why you're here. Again, that's not just arbitrary. There is a reason, and I do think some of us are here because the soul evolution's reached a certain culminative process where it's at a precipice where it wants to break through the seal, the veil, and it's come back in to this middle center way, which is earth, which I've said in another video is an anagram for heart. Now the heart centripetal, it's in and of itself like this, the magnetism. So we've come to realign that state so that we can transcend what I feel like to me is home, and it's not subject to materialism, any forms of material opulence that can encapsulate us into this dome form kind of modality, because once you're in that modality, it's very, very finite. And the problem with this is that it will just perpetuate itself and keep reiterating the same kind of frequency, which then cannot break through the seal. It can't go back deep within, because deeper in is the expression of the out. The out is a reflection and an implication of what's happening on the interior. So if you're not at a certain frequency, then when you die, you cannot, the energy cannot get through. It can't break through because it's too dense. It's way too dense. It's like, let me just use this three-dimensional physical analogy. It's like particles are too big, the particles are too inflamed, and they can't seem to break through the smaller particles. It just completely occludes the breakthrough, so it's not able to transition through. So that's just what I feel like is what's going on. So yeah, what else? This topic is a very sensitive one, by the way. It is a really sensitive topic, because everyone's trapped in a Darwinian kind of perception. Now, I think his name is it Charles Darwin? Darwinian. The Darwinian theory is just that of itself a theory. It's concocted from the ego, and it's a very contrived kind of notion of that our evolution. And I know Darwin was attached to the royal family roots somewhere, which we are collectively under tyranny of. And you are a sovereign being that is sufficient in yourself. You don't need to be under anybody's dominion, because that implies that there's something in us that they are trying to oppress. So there's something very potent in ourselves that they are trying to oppress. And having someone under your dominion does imply that in itself. It does, because why else would you want somebody in as a form of slavery? You're hoarding some kind of energy. They're hoarding energy. Think in terms of energy. If somebody wants to have you under their kind of dominion, subjugation, then they're trying to stop and in some way impede some kind of innate quality in you, and exploit that energy that could be used to create, because we are creators, and use it to be advantageous to them. Now, who's them? That's another video. I will speak about this. Who are those? Who is this agenda? Who is behind it? I'll get into that more intricately in another clip, but I think this one for now is enough. I've given a sufficient amount enough out. I don't want to get too far, but I will do several other clips concerning this if this gets a lot of views. So thank you guys for that. Like and share. We all help each other out. I would be happy to share any of you guys' videos, and let's cultivate each other's essence within and of itself, so that this message can get out, the true esoteric divine knowledge, not all this rhetoric like the politicians spout, completely deceiving us on a mass scale. Let's really do this. So subscribe, like my stuff, share it if you want, and that is all, guys. It's all about love. That is the message. That is my message. Love is a subtle resonance we've been desensitized to. Let's revert back to this and all coalesce. Thank you.